Over 3 years ago, Donald Trump's Attorney General William Barr tried to please his boss by appointing federal prosecutor John Durham to investigate the origins of the FBI's investigation of Russia's connection to the first Trump presidential campaign. There was no reason to do this. There was no reason to do it at all because the jurisdiction for doing this was in the Justice Department's Inspector General's office, who investigated exactly the same thing and found that the investigation of the Trump campaign's Russian connections was completely legitimate. William Barr quit his job as Attorney General in the final weeks of the Trump presidency when he could see that Donald Trump's attempts to change the outcome of the presidential election was becoming a fully developed criminal enterprise. John Durham did not quit. His top deputy, John Durham's top deputy, quit the Durham investigation 2 years earlier in what appeared to be a principled resignation in September 2020 over how to or whether to proceed with an investigation that has uncovered nothing. President Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland have had the power to fire John Durham since Inauguration Day, but they have allowed him to continue his investigation because they don't want to appear political in choosing to end an investigation that was started by Republicans. The latest chapter in this unprecedented waste of federal investigative resources is a not guilty verdict delivered quickly in Washington, D.C. by a jury whose forewoman said the case prosecuted by Durham's staff never should have been brought to court. Attorney Michael Sussman was found not guilty of lying to the FBI about possible Trump campaign connections with Russians. The forewoman of the jury told the Washington Post, "Personally, I don't think it should have been prosecuted," saying the government could have spent our time more wisely. Joining us now, David Corn, the Washington bureau chief for Mother Jones, and Tim O'Brien, senior columnist for Bloomberg Opinion and author of Trump Nation. Both are MSNBC political analysts. And David, what are we to make of this latest chapter in the Durham investigation, this not guilty verdict?
Let me put a good news spin on this and the whole Durham investigation. As you noted, it was basically a hit job set up by Bill Barr to try to prove Donald Trump's defense that the whole Russian investigation was a hoax. It wasn't a hoax. Russia attacked. His campaign aided and abetted the attack by denying it. He lied about his Russian business connections. He tried to impede the investigation when he was president. I mean, there's so much there that is really there that they keep trying to deny. So here was Durham appointed to show this was all a big ruse. It was all a witch hunt from the deep state. Well, here we now see that he has nothing. 2.5 years ago, he said publicly, John Durham, that he believed the FBI investigation wasn't started up properly, echoing what Bill Barr said in defense of Trump. Well, he's had 2.5 years, I think that's longer now than what Robert Mueller spent on the case, to provide some information regarding that, and he has struck out. So in some ways, I think this is a very valuable service he's performing by showing us there is absolutely no case for the whole Trump hoax witch hunt argument. And that's what, he came up empty this week. He has 2 other cases, one that was pleaded out and another that is going to trial in October. And none of them have anything to do with the origins of the Russian investigation and the whole hoax allegation.
Tim O'Brien, I'm going to ask you the toughest guess what Trump would do question ever. What would Donald Trump do if there was a Democratic special prosecutor left in the Justice Department when he was sworn in on Inauguration Day, and that prosecutor was there to help Democrats specifically? How long would that version of that prosecutor last on Inauguration afternoon?
You are making this way too easy for me, Lawrence. It would take about 15 seconds. And in the first 14 seconds of those 15 seconds, Trump would be saying that it was a political plant, that it was a witch hunt, that this was all left in place in order to undermine his presidency and the legitimacy of his office. I guess since David has put the good news spin on this, it leaves me a little bit to put the bad news spin on this. I do think I agree with David completely that this thing was a distraction. It's good that Durham and Barr got embarrassed in court. But as David has noted as well, they've given a lot of fodder to conspiracy theorists in Trump's corner who can now say that all of the Russian investigation was baseless and that it was filled with unfortunate and illegitimate prosecutions. Barr himself, in the wake of Durham's defeat in court, went on TV and in as lawless a fashion as Bill Barr has demonstrated himself to be, even as Attorney General, said, well, yes, we lost in court, but this still shows, in fact, that agents of Hillary Clinton pursued Donald Trump and tarred him with these unfair allegations, which was exactly what the court process disproved. I think the other thing that's unfortunate here is that there is a lot left unexplored about Donald Trump's financial relationship with Russia. Robert Mueller left that on the table. Prosecutors in New York have left that on the table. Voters should understand how material this remains because Donald Trump is a clear and present danger and a national security threat. Because of it, money from Eastern Europe flowed through his businesses for years. He didn't fetishize Putin simply because he fetishizes fascists, which he does, but it's also because he had money in his eyes. And he saw Russia as a place he could do business in. And it's important that we know about that. And we may never get to that, especially if Trump's going to run again, because of all of this deterrence and distraction that Barr and his minions have thrown into the process.
David, consider the politics of this for a second. I mean, you know, Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, they knew going in that the Durham investigation was nonsense, that it was established just to please Donald Trump. And yet they took that old-fashioned ethical position of, we don't want to fire him because then we will look political firing the Republican-appointed special prosecutor. And the trouble with that now, I mean, I understand that way of thinking in the 1990s, but the trouble with that now is there a single voter on the Trump side of the world who respects Joe Biden or Merrick Garland because they did not fire Durham?
Of course not. And they're in a damned if you do and damned if you don't position, right? I mean, Tim is right to say that the conspiracy theorists of the right and the Trump cult have been given ammunition by Durham and by Barr, and comments like Barr made this week. But at the same time, if they'd fired Durham, they'd have a different type of ammunition. I mean, from the get-go, from 2016, before he got elected, Trump has been spinning conspiracy theories about the deep state to deflect from his complicity in the Russian attack on American democracy. Now, I'm not saying there was direct collusion, but he was out there throughout 2016 saying this attack was not happening when it was, and when his own people, Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr., had been told in emails that the Russians wanted to help the Trump campaign secretly. So from the very start, they've been denying this, and they've been effective within the cult world of deflecting it with all sorts of other things, complaining about the Steele dossier, complaining about the Sussman meeting. These are all deflections and distractions. And they found a few things that the FBI did wrong that actually are, that were wrong, that are diversions to take away from the big picture. So I think no matter what happened, they will stick to this. They will keep spinning their deep state conspiracy theories, and they'll do it through 2024 and onward. So, I mean, I think Durham has demonstrated that he is nothing. And, maybe even because of that, he could be fired. But at this stage, I don't think it matters much to that side, whether he's, for conspiracy purposes, whether he's there or not. He's done the work. They've already, I guess, adopted this as theology in terms of the Trump world.
Tim O'Brien, 3 years on the job, and John Durham has not undone one word of the 500 pages or so of the Mueller report.
And the Mueller report had prosecutable evidence in it. The Mueller report laid out a robust fact pattern of obstruction of justice. and collusion by various members of the Trump administration and the Trump campaign team. And nothing ultimately was done to bring Donald Trump to heel for that. The Durham investigation is just a charade in comparison to what Mueller did. And let's not forget about all of the shenanigans around Michael Flynn that also got deflated this week. It's a couple of big losses for Team Trump this week on both of those issues.